You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on blood tests, supplements, and different gadgets. There are a lot of things you can measure at home for free or for minimal cost. In this video, I'm going to give you the most fundamental longevity tests you can do that have a very high predictive value for your overall long-term health. Number 1. Waist circumference. A high waist circumference is indicative of excess visceral fat around the organs. It looks like this round belly. In fact, you could be otherwise with skinny arms and legs, but if you have a round belly, it's a sign of poor metabolic health and excess visceral fat. A 2014 study on over 650,000 people saw that waist circumference was linearly associated with an increased risk in all-cause mortality in both men and women. The lowest risk was observed at 85 centimeters or 33.5 inches in men and 65 centimeters or 25.5 inches in women. A waist circumference of 100 centimeters or 39 inches in men and 75 centimeters or 29.5 inches in women is still acceptable but not optimal. So you want to get your waist circumference as low as possible. Number 2. Grip strength. Grip strength can be considered a good marker of upper body strength and overall health. Low grip strength correlates with type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, sarcopenia, frailty, liver disease, dementia, some cancers, and all-cause mortality. Your midlife grip strength already predicts how well are you going to do with everyday tasks 25 years later. Those with the lowest grip strength are 3 times more likely to have difficulties eating and rising from a chair. They're also twice as likely to have problems with putting on clothes independently. You don't have to train your grip strength directly to live longer. But a weak grip strength indicates overall low muscle mass and muscle strength. A strong grip is an indicator of good muscle strength that predicts lower mortality in the future. You can measure your grip strength with a dynamometer, which is a device that you squeeze as hard as possible to get a score. The stronger your grip, the higher your score. Grip strength peaks in the 30s to 40s and decreases with age. In men, the highest quartile of grip strength for both hands combined is 113 to 159 kilograms, or 250 to 350 pounds. That's in their 30s. And in women, 68 to 110 kilograms, or 150 to 245 pounds in their 40s. The strongest quartile of 70-year-old men have a grip strength of 79 to 110 kilograms, or 175 to 245 pounds. And women 54 to 77 kilograms, or 120 to 170 pounds for both hands combined. You definitely don't want to be below the 75th percentile of your age group when it comes to grip strength, because it means you're as strong as the average person, which is a very low standard. My last grip strength result showed my grip strength for both arms combined was 134 kilograms, or 295 pounds. That puts me into the middle of the highest quartile for males in their 30s, which is my age group. Number 3. hs-CRP. Inflammation is at the root of all diseases and it increases with age, which is a term called inflammaging. hs-CRP, or highly sensitive C-reactive protein, is a marker that assesses systemic inflammation. It's one of the easiest and most common markers of inflammation. There are others, but as a single marker, hs-CRP can have great predictive value. hs-CRP levels are associated with increased all-cause mortality and heart disease in a linear fashion. The higher the CRP, the higher the risk, and the optimal CRP levels are as close to 0 as possible. A CRP of 1 to 3 milligrams per liter is linked to a 30% higher risk of all-cause mortality and 43% higher risk for cardiovascular disease mortality. So a healthy CRP should be below 0.5 milligrams per liter. My average CRP levels are around 0.1 to 0.2, which is virtually 0, but my latest test in March showed my CRP to be 0.01 milligram per liter, which is barely detectable. Number 4. Blood pressure. High blood pressure is called a silent killer because it's slowly killing you and you can't feel it. You can't feel high blood pressure, but even slightly elevated blood pressure increases the risk of cardiovascular disease and neurodegeneration. Normal blood pressure for adults is between 100 to 130 for systolic and 60 to 80 for diastolic blood pressure. Ideally, it should be lower than 120 to 80 and closer to 110 to 70. You shouldn't measure your blood pressure once a year at the doctor's because it's not representative of your regular blood pressure. That's why it's useful to have a blood pressure monitor at home that you can use once a week or every other day if you want. Before measuring your blood pressure, you have to be sitting still and calm for 5 minutes without having consumed stimulants for the past few hours. Then you measure your blood pressure once your heart rate has decreased and you're not stimulated. My average blood pressure is 110 to 75. Number 5. Lp(a). One of the most atherogenic lipoproteins is Lp(a) or lipoprotein A. Lp(a) is the strongest genetically determined atherogenic lipoprotein, which means that its levels vary a lot between individuals. They can vary 1,000-fold, ranging from close to 0 to 300 mg per deciliter. Lp(a) below 50 mg per deciliter is considered normal, but anything above 8 is already linked to a higher risk of heart disease. A 2021 large UK biobank study among 460,000 subjects discovered a linear increase in atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease risk after an Lp(a) concentration of 8 mg per deciliter. Basically, the higher the Lp(a) levels, the higher the risk of developing heart disease, and the lowest risk is below 8 mg per deciliter. At Lp(a) of 40 mg per deciliter, the risk increases by 20%, at 100 mg per deciliter by 50%, and at 160 mg per deciliter by up to 100%. My own Lp(a) levels are around 2 mg per deciliter, which is pretty much as low risk as possible. You can control your Lp(a) levels slightly with medications and lifestyle, but you can't control it that much. However, it's still good to measure your Lp(a) levels once to see where is your baseline. With that information, you can adjust your other risk factors accordingly. Number 6. Hemoglobin A1C. High blood sugar is similar to high blood pressure. You can't feel it, but it's killing you slowly. Glycated hemoglobin or hemoglobin A1C reflects your average blood sugar over the past few months. It's a good marker to know how much glycation and elevated blood sugar your body is experiencing. Diabetes begins with an hemoglobin A1C of 6.5% or higher. In terms of mortality risk, there's a linear association between hemoglobin A1C levels above 5.5% and primary cardiovascular events and mortality. The lowest all-cause mortality has been observed with an hemoglobin A1C below 5.2%. So you want your hemoglobin A1C to be at 5% or slightly lower, although there's no evidence that a score of 4.5% would be better. My average hemoglobin A1C is between 4.8 to 5%. Number 7. Cooper test. Having good cardiorespiratory fitness is associated with lower mortality and less heart disease. That's because to have good cardiorespiratory fitness, you need to do cardio, which is good for your heart, and it lowers your blood pressure. Cardiorespiratory fitness is typically measured by looking at your VO2 max or maximum oxygen consumption during exercise. A VO2 max above 50 has been seen to be associated with the lowest mortality. One way to calculate your VO2 max at home is to do the Cooper test. You basically run as far as possible within 12 minutes. The farther you run, the higher your VO2 max will technically be. The lowest mortality risk of VO2 max 50 would require you to run 2.75 kilometers or 1.72 miles in 12 minutes. You can use online calculators like this to calculate your VO2 max from your Cooper test result. The Cooper test isn't 100% accurate, and it has some discrepancies with the standard VO2 max test. For example, I've run 3.2 kilometers of the Cooper test within 12 minutes, which would give me a VO2 max of 60. But I've seen greater scores on the actual VO2 max test, so there are some discrepancies between there. However, as a free test of your cardiorespiratory fitness, the Cooper test is excellent. Keep in mind, the same idea could be applied to a 1 kilometer or 1 mile test. You could use those as well, but the main idea is the same. The faster you're able to run, the lower your mortality risk. All of those markers can be improved with proper lifestyle that incorporates different aspects of longevity. Check out my full evidence-based longevity routine next.